audience, you do influence art, because it was said to me that it looked very severe, that their arms were chopped off, and I hadn't looked at it that way. And so I softened that element so it didn't look like somebody had got at them with a chainsaw.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you are more than welcome to this, another episode 99 of the Coffee to 11 show, brought to you by Wigwam. And it's wonderful to have you here. And in particular, it's wonderful to have our special guest here this morning, all the way from County Wexford. It is Helen Colfer. Helen, please pop in, say hello. Cheers us with your coffee mug.
Cheers, guys. Great to be here. Thanks a million for inviting me. I'm excited to share my work and background story to you. I have my mug that I got from Paul for Christmas. 2 of them. And this one in particular I love. It says, happy today and always. An inspirational mug.
Isn't that lovely? Isn't that lovely? That's setting the tone. That's setting the bar very high. Thank you for that, Helen. Stay where you are for a moment, Helen, and let me just tell the people a little bit about you. So Helen Merrigan Colfer is her name, and she's an artist. Helen Merrigan Colfer, artist. Artist and art teacher is in fact how she describes her career. How long established? Since 2014. So it's only in recent years that Helen has actually taken to art to express who she is, and it's stunningly beautiful, the stuff that you're going to see later today. And we're going to take a slightly different tack with the Coffee at 11 show today, which I hope you'll all enjoy. So I asked how many employees. She says, just myself, when you hear this, but I'd be lost without Paul, who gets paid in thank yous. Lovely. Thank you, Paul, from all of us. She goes on to say that she's an award-winning artist and sculptor. She has received 4 awards so far and has exhibited throughout the island of Ireland, including in the RUA, which is the Royal Ulster Academy of Arts, 4 times. She lives with her husband, Paul, and 3 cats, working from her studio in their home at the tip of the Hookhead Peninsula. Sounds fabulous. Of course, we've long relationships with Wexford ourselves, the O'Briens, overlooked by one of the oldest working lighthouses in Europe. Sounds fantastic. And then she goes on to say the infamous Loftus Hall is just up the road too. So we'll touch on that in a little while. Here's something else. Her brother-in-law, Owen Colfer, is the author of Artemis Fowl. You've all heard of Artemis Fowl. That's the brother-in-law. And she went to the Holy Faith Convent in New Ross as a boarder, and her sculptures depict her emotional story, but it can also connect with other people's stories too. And then I asked something nobody knows about you. She says, as a child, I made art out of road gravel and tar. She says, my mother has a prized tree. I stripped every leaf off of it to use the red leaf stalks to pretend it was rhubarb, and forced her youngest brother to have a tea party with her. I say that didn't go down too well.
No, and I never knew that was her favourite tree until I stripped it bare, and she told me I had killed it, I had murdered it, and made me weed the actual rhubarb. We had ridges of rhubarb in the garden, and for punishment you were made weed the rhubarb, by hand. And the tree actually survived. But I'll tell you, that was the first and last time I ever had a tea party with my younger brother.
Did he get into trouble too, or was it just you as the older sister?
He was the innocent party in it all. And the gravel and the tar, my mother's heart was broken between tar ending up in the carpets at home and mala. Because, I used to make this stuff out of mala, stick it on the windowsill in the hopes that the sun would dry it out and make it harder, because I didn't know how sculptures were made hard. And this mala would be stuck in the carpets, and you'd hear, the almighties been drawn down when, she was trying to get this out of the carpet.
Oh, it sounds idyllic, but what it also paints a picture for me is, and Kathy Mary, lovely to have you in the room from New Hampshire, but the quintessential Irish mammy, right? Because I do have to say, I have to be honest here, as the son of an Irish mammy, I think the boys got away lighter. Is that fair to say? A few nods around the room.
Bulb, yes. The prize, yes. The girls, yeah. It was an Irish thing. Yeah.
I think it was. Anyway, come here. Listen, it's lovely to have you here in the cafe, Helen, and thanks for popping in. And we can see some of your work behind you. And I've got a couple of slides that I'm going to share with our audience here in a moment, and we'll talk through your journey by focusing on some of your beautiful art, and only some of it, because we don't have time to go into it all. But I hope that's okay with you. But just give us those early years. Born in Wexford, I think.
Yeah, born in Wexford, but until the age of about 8 or 9, our family moved around an awful lot. There was a lot of upheaval because of my father's job. He was an electrical engineer, and he worked with Franca and Mogul Mines, and it was all over kind of the west of Ireland. But eventually we moved back to Wexford. My father was from Kilkenny, and my mother is Wexford, Rafe Road, which is just kind of halfway between where I'm living now and Feathered, where we ended up living as a family. So from my house to the family home in Feathered would be about a 10-minute drive. So this is actually where I live. If you look at that book, it's written actually by my husband's father, Billy Colfer, who incidentally died 5 weeks before my own father died in 2013. And I have a circle drawn here, there. That's where we live. That's the Hook Lighthouse. And Dunmore East is over on this side. So, I'm looking out at a vista of sea and the land over at Dunmore East. Beautiful part of the world. I'm blessed.
Isn't that lovely? Isn't that lovely?
I come from a family of 6, 3 boys, 3 girls. I'm the 3rd youngest. Under me is 6 years younger James, and then 15 years younger Colin. And the eldest was 5 years older than me. So we were like steps of the stairs till I came along, and then suddenly there was, a longer span.
Which of the younger brothers, by the way, was dragged into that tea party?
Well, initially it was James, who was 6 years younger than me. But a lot of my more serious crimes would have been done with the one that was 15 years younger than me, because he's far too young to have independence and a will of his own, like. And Jesus, we lived in a family where we were blaming each other for everything. You instantly looked guilty because, if you hadn't done it, you did something else that somebody else got the blame for. So, yeah, I'm very close to my youngest brother, Colin, 15, more so in recent years.
Great stuff.
He had the same hair colouring as me. 3 redheads in the family, and 3 that started out as blondes and they turned into brown heads. So kind of an even split there, the old hair colour gene.
I actually wore this buttonhole. Princess Shelley gifted me a whole lot of buttonholes for depending on mood and outfit and the whole lot of rig out. And so I chose this one particularly for you this morning, Helen, just to acknowledge your bright vista of life. Exactly. And a nod to the Irish redhead. My sister, there are 2 in our family redheads and 3 dark, and it's quite interesting what happens. Come here, early years in primary school and over to secondary school. From memory, when we were talking before the show, you were saying that you were always sort of a loner, for want of a term. I forgive the wrong word there, perhaps, but you enjoyed your own company, and this art was bubbling up in you from an early stage. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, and the loneliness or the isolation would be, I suppose, indicative of anybody who's had families that have moved from area to area. You're moving around from different counties, and each time you're starting from scratch, and it's harder because your own age group has already made friends. So you're kind of on the edge trying to break your way in, and just as you manage it, then you're moving somewhere else. So, and then traits like that and habits and behaviors become ingrained in us, and then automatically you don't realize it, but you are behaving in certain ways then that keeps you on the edge. But my early influences when it comes to art, and that little lifeline that you'd hang to when you're at your lowest was, my God, she's good at art. Mr. O'Hare, when I was in national school, he had me up on the blackboard. I used to be the girl to go to for drawing white chalk on the blackboard. And the best thing ever was that you were not segregated or picked on or, messed with because you were good at art. there was that kind of, people were in awe of you. So even though you didn't earn your place through having a brilliant personality, say, you were respected enough because you were the one that went up to draw on the board, and you had that kind of, all the eyes were on you for a good reason.
Wow,
And
isn't that lovely?
in secondary school, then I had Sister Paulina. I was a boarder, and she was the art teacher when I went there first. Luckily for me, she ended up the principal as well at the end of the day, because I was kind of her pet. So I got away with murder. But yeah, she used to allow me into her own private art studio. And actually, I remember as was it third year or something like that, there wasn't clay modeling allowed in the art room. We didn't do clay modeling back then, not 3D work, but she was a potter herself. So she let me mess around with the clay. I made figures, and she put them into a competition. And I remember my mother and father and me going up to Dublin to receive an award for it. And it's such a hazy memory that I don't even know what it was for. I didn't even realize I was doing it because Sister Paulina submitted it in on her own bat. But she brought me into her cell as well at nighttime and gave me lessons in how she used oil paint. And it was just an automatic thing that I would either be a nun who taught art or be an artist. And I actually, you're about to say it, aren't you?
No,
I had the Reverend Mother from the Holy Faith Order. There'd be an awful lot of people who know me that would be sniggering in disbelief because I use colourful language. But a lot. I interrupt my colourful language with words every now and again. That's the way I roll. But I had the Reverend Mother come to the Holy Faith Convent to speak to me about becoming a nun, because I wanted to be a nun. And she was saying, you're very, very young, because I did my Leaving Cert when I was 16, and I was actually in art college while I was still 16. And she was saying, go and experience life. I was a Eucharistic minister as well when I was 15 and 16. I was in a weekend retreat in Loftus Hall when we were in sixth year. All the teenagers from around here, the enclosed order was still in there, the nuns. So that was a privilege, because for anyone out there who doesn't know, Loftus Hall is the place where the devil appeared reputedly all those years ago. I won't go into the history because I'll only let the side down. But, if you Google it, you'll find out all about it. Massive. We can actually see it from the back garden, and we can see the lighthouse from the front garden. So we're right in the middle on our little peninsula.
Helen, take a breath there for a second. Take a breath and a sip of coffee, if you don't mind. There's some gems in there. I was watching DQ laughing her head off when we were talking about the sides of the story and all the rest of it. It was a couple of things that just I find intriguing, if you don't mind. This is a common theme that has come up in the 99 shows and the Coffee 11 show, where people have been influenced at an early age by specific teachers. Mr. O'Hare.
100-year planning.
Yeah, 100-year work, that's exactly it. Mr. O'Hare, Sister Paulina, pivotal in your journey, and it's why we're sitting here today, to be honest, right? And Sister Paulina is to invite you into her cell and allow you to play with her stuff and all the rest of it. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I'm going to have a look at your art in just a moment, if you don't mind. But I've got this dilemma in my head. You're talking about at one stage wanting to be a nun and them taking that seriously. And yet you spoke about serious crimes and getting away with murder. As you said that all in the same breath. I'm thinking, okay, there's depths here that we don't have time to mine today. But it's just wonderful. Let me just, if you don't mind, introduce people to your art. I'm going to share my screen, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't mind. And Helen, I'm going to walk you through a few pieces, and I'd like you, if you don't mind, to talk us through the journey, if that's okay with you.
All righty. Well, take off my spectacles. Let me say that 2014 I started off, and I actually had virtually the full year attending counselling, because I was diagnosed with clinical depression. I had an eating disorder from my early 20s till I was 50. The clinical depression was in my mid to late 20s, and it reached kind of the crescendo where literally I was falling apart and I didn't know whether I was coming or going. And Paul, the wind beneath my wings, organised counselling for me when I was 49. So that was in 2014. And this work came hot off the presses following, well, actually, before I finished the counselling, she had advised me, and my husband had as well, to renew my endeavours with art because I never felt confident enough to put my work out there. I dabbled with painting because I qualified in painting and drawing, but I never felt confident enough. Sculpture was a different matter. So this whole work is really my road to recovery and self-discovery. And I started to, discover who I was and question what I was and what I was about. These particular pieces are from a series of horses that I did. I did crested tree horses initially that had driftwood in. These are my earth horses, and I moved then on to the tall horses. The earth horses are the most interesting to me because they're based on the rock of the coastline right behind our home here, facing out towards Dunmore's east. I used to go for walks collecting the driftwood, and I incorporated them into the horses to try and get this idea of, from their title, superposition, where something can be multiple things at the same time. And I felt like that's what was reflected in me, that, I felt that I was good, that I was bad, that I, was confident one minute, then I'd be very self-conscious the next minute. I didn't know who I was. I was putting on a show for everybody. I should have got an award for my teaching, because I'm after seeing in the audience there Marie Tobin, one of my past students. And I would think that none of them, while I was teaching, would have ever guessed that their teachers walking in the door, brazen as you like, whacking on that music, being the envy of the school, because it was literally a disco we had from morning till evening. And we were putting on this face and pretending to be gregarious and, funny or very full of authority. And don't dare question, because I know, how things go around here, when really behind it, you were totally different. So that was my ode to those horses.
And that's a nice segue, Helen. That's a nice segue, in my opinion. And thank you for sharing that. So that was your early work. And, we've spoken about this masking, putting on a mask, and, everybody, we've no idea what's going on behind anybody's smile, right? So in my short, knowledge of you and your work, I've been fascinated by your use of materials to tell that story, and, the covering up that goes on. Would you take us through these three pieces, please, Helen?
Right, well, those guys there are collectively known as Dreams, Wishes and Secrets. It's part of a larger series. And after the horses, I moved into, examining myself from where I was at that point in time as an adult. I was 51, 52 at the time. And all of my work really was based on masquerading and the disguises that we used to immerse ourselves in and shield ourselves in. This one here then was the starting of the point where I had got to the point of, why was I like that as an adult? And in order to move forward and understand my position, I had to look to my past. And this was then investigating more my emotional state growing up as a child and how I felt internally. It's got nothing to do with, the physical things that might have happened to me and my experiences, but more my emotional reaction to it, how I didn't cope, how I didn't react properly, and how I interpreted them badly in my mind and echoed it all the time. So in the center there, you had the childhood one, which was see nothing, hear nothing, tell no one. The one on the left is inside I'm drowning. And that's supposed to be like ripples on the outside when the doors are closed. That's what people see, like a nice calm, tranquil appearance. But in the inside, you could be dying a death and on your last nerve. And then on the right-hand side, it's me, not me. And it's about the idea of keeping things inside internally. And I had little things written on the inside of the doors so that, if people wanted to, they could open it up and see what they don't see from the outside. And then this is the starting point where I started to strip back all the coloring, because I wanted to have white to symbolize innocence and purity, silence, isolation, and a kind of an ethereal otherliness, if that is a word, a separateness, so that people could look at them almost as something holy, because your emotions and how you deal with them and mental health is a holy shrine. You are a holy shrine, and you are the sum of your thoughts.
Beautiful, beautiful. May I ask, forgive me for interrupting you, may I ask, the middle character there is holding something down low. What's that? And what does it represent?
It's a soft toy, a rabbit. And at that stage, it was supposed to represent the Velveteen Rabbit. And in a 2021, I put in the proper Velveteen Rabbit, the proper shape of it. But it's the idea of all of your emotions and love go into this inanimate toy. And, it's worn out from all the love and the whatever it is that you're not getting, and that people aren't showing you, and that you're not able to show to other people because you feel disconnected. So I started to introduce symbolism into my work, to try and get that idea that you're sort of an in-earth object, or that you're incapacitated, invisibly restrained, that you're paralyzed almost, but it's not obvious to somebody at first glance. I wanted to be the lure for people to see, oh, that's lovely. And then as they look, they would wonder, why has that got no arms? This one here would have been my earliest, when I started to go into figurative work initially. And I was, again, this thing of wanting to have that kindred spirit. That is, this idea of it's called daisy chain golden girls, and the actual daisies go around in a chain, where it circles from the bottom up, and then there's a chain that actually unites them. And what I wanted in that was, I didn't realize it was tribes that I was hunting for at that stage. It was a kindred spirit, but it turns out that it is my tribe I was looking for the whole time. And this idea of being able to be with people who were like you, and that when you saw them, they were a reflection of everything that was good in you. And then they're immersed into their dresses, enveloped by nature, and they have no arms. And I was told by somebody, and this will tell you, audience, you do influence art, because it was said to me that it looked very severe, that their arms were chopped off, and I hadn't looked at it that way. And so I softened that element so it didn't look like somebody had got at them with a chainsaw. But that's a piece that I actually really loved. Now, this is the Snapdragon Dress. This is definitely about the idea of us masquerading around as adults, pretending to be something that you're not. And I, on purpose, made it, to look classical and festive and happy and introspective. But, the abstraction of the Snapdragon buds or seedlings were supposed to also represent the idea that you feel insecure and that all eyes are on you, and that you're wanting to become a mirror and reflect that to people. Because when you're uncertain of who you are, you tend to mimic and mime and echo those that you're in company with right at that minute of time. And you reflect what you think they need you to reflect. And you start doing that in so many instances with so many different people that you don't know who you are, and you begin to feel like you're a fraud, personally speaking. And that's the way I was feeling. So this dress is up in Donegal at the moment, and I'd love it if she was bought, because I actually really like that piece. So anybody out there who's looking for a Mother's Day present. Okay, this here, this is a 2017 one. It's called Noughts and Crosses. When I made this dress, I had gone through another bout of personal history, and it was health problems. And this is a celebration of that. It's more like a celebration to survival and empowerment. I won the award at Cordia Visual, and I remember Barra Cassidy ringing me up to say that I had won the Cosgrove Award for A Dress of Roses, and I couldn't turn up to get the award because I had just gotten my diagnosis for breast cancer at that time. So I was going through the initial starts for going into testing and all that. And that was also the same year that Noel McAlinden came into my life. The noughts and crosses are supposed to represent, the minuses and the gains, the pluses and the minuses, the crosses that you have to bear. And the cross that you see up on the top with the red bullseye mark in it, that represents the breast cancer in 2017. It was stage 2. I had got my first mammogram appointment at the age of 51, and I wouldn't have gone only for Paul took the day off work to drive me into it, and it came back in the results that I had stage 2 deep embedded under the muscle, so it wouldn't have been diagnosed or found earlier until it was too late, unless I had gone to my first state mammogram, that I was to turn up to. I also had in 2016 and 2015 stage 2 melanoma and a melanoma in situ. And to be honest, physical cancer, the year of counselling set me up for that. I mean, I was like a warrior. It didn't affect me in any way. If anything, I was more driven in my work. Mental hassles and self-inadequacy and self-conscious issues and stuff like that, that weighs. And as you get older, that dark cloud gets heavier and envelops you. Physical health doesn't, like you can, wear that and get on with it. And if anything, it was an engine. 2017 was also the year that I met Noel. I got into the RUA for the first time, that I went to Enniskillen when Noel came down to meet me and, visited the studio. And that started off like literally skyrocketing my feeling of self-worth. And between Noel and Paul, my road to discovery and recovery, that I was beginning to discover myself.
Helen, allow me to come in here and give you a break. But ladies and gentlemen, isn't that just beautiful? And we're not finished yet. We're not finished yet. This is just, we're going through the phases, the eras here. Discovery and recovery, that's a phrase young Eamon Smith has often used in terms of his mindful moments that we've been blessed to hear for the last 99 episodes of the Coffee 11 show. And we all need it, and we need to hear it, and we've all been there. And it's a continuum. Noel McAlinden, lovely to have you here. And it was in fact, yes, indeed, another heart emoji. It was when Noel came on the Coffee 11 show some months back that we first met Helen. And it was the sight of those beautiful artworks behind her that grabbed my attention, and we started a conversation which has led us to this morning. What's really interesting for me, and I trust and hope for everybody here in the audience, is the evolution of your work. And you see, here's my gig, I suppose, my deal on all this is, if I walked into an art gallery and saw your stunning work on a plinth somewhere, I'd be intrigued by its beauty and its form, but I'd be very intrigued as to what went on in the artist's mind to create it. And most times we don't have that opportunity to speak to artists. We've got to make our own judgment calls and all the rest of it. So we're very blessed. Thank you for taking time out today. And Noel McAlinden's been a huge part of your journey. And we'll have a chat with Noel later, if that's okay for a moment. But also Paul. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I'm going to hang Paul out to dry here. He was your first boyfriend.
Oh, he was my first boyfriend. I had 2 cousins in England from Liverpool. They used to come over and stay with my aunt, Stacia, who ran the shop at Slade. And the 2 cousins were the same age as myself and my older brother, Tony. There was 1 year in between each of them, like there was with me and Tony. And they had befriended Colfer's 5 brothers who used to spend their summer holidays in Slade, because Billy Colfer, the daddy, was born and reared in Slade. So I saw them from afar because they'd come in and out of Feathered with the cousins. And I thought, Jesus Christ, Paul Colfer was, like bee's knees and the ant's ankles. He was so gorgeous that I couldn't even talk. Do you know that kind of way? So we had the discos that used to go from 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock in St. Mary's Hall, like a spit's throw away up the road from our house. And my mother allowed Tony and myself to go to the discos on the proviso that we'd be at home, like together, and we'd go together, those couple of 100 yards up the road. And I asked Paul, or my brother Tony, would you ask Paul to get me to dance? And lo and behold, Paul did it. I stuck myself like a limpet to him for the rest of the night, not knowing how to say goodbye or, not accepting that it could be just one dance. He had no choice in the matter. And it just happened that we used to write letters to each other in boarding school. He wasn't in boarding school, but I was. And we were mad into Queen. Well, he was, so then I was, obviously. And this relationship kind of was, a summertime thing with letters. And then Paul was a year ahead of me in school. So when he went off to college, we were kind of, we drifted apart. And we ended up getting back together again in 1998. Midnight Mass in Templetown Church. I was wearing this very same jumper with a fucking fuck-off pair of red boots that I loved and wore until there was holes in them. And he asked me out for a drink. And actually I was, at the end of the Mass, I was trying to move my car because I had blocked everybody and I came late. And my Aunt Stacia stopped me and was chatting to me. And I was like, I have to go. And Paul nabbed me and said, can we meet up for a drink? And that was it. All of my students that I was teaching in at Lone Community College at that time, their lives were thrown up into the air because I was going around on clouds. And, suddenly I was, I was mush. I was puppy in her hands because I was way in love.
It's like the story of Shelley and Danny. It's just, it's just mad. Come here, would the bee's knees and the aunt's ankles himself like to pop in and say hello? Give us your side of the story there, Paul. You're very welcome.
Yeah. So listen, I'd just like to say how absolutely fantastically proud I am of Helen. And I think she is doing a wonderful job right now, talking about her work and sharing her inspiration. But I just think, I've seen, I suppose, firsthand how Helen has worked and developed over the years, and she's built her practice, her artistic practice here in Phuket. But I also can see how much hard work it is. It's hard work and it's constant work. But what Helen does, the physicality of the pieces she creates, the planning, it's not just the artistic vision, but it's also technically creating these pieces. So Helen is the person in the marriage who has power tools. Helen uses the power tools. I don't go near power tools. Wouldn't be safe. So Helen is the person who is physically creating these pieces, making what she can imagine, making them into a physical reality. So I'm really, really proud of her. And I'm delighted to...
Sorry, Paul, and on behalf of everybody here in the cafe, we want to honour you and your part in the journey, because it's very clear. Helen said this to me when we met first, and she said it here publicly in front of everybody. You are the wind beneath her wings. So you keep being the wind beneath her wings, and she'll keep producing beautiful work, 100-year work that will be influencing generations to come. Absolutely. Paul, thank you for that. I'm going to go back to the next era, if you don't mind. We'll just mute you one more time, Paul, if that's okay.
Yep.
Go back to some more work. The next era, as I see it, and then we're going to finish in a few moments before we go to Princess Cat. We're going to finish with some of the painted work, or the drawing work, I should say. So let me just share my screen one more time, and we'll fly through these ones. Will you take us through this next few slides, if you don't mind? We'll go through them reasonably rapidly.
Okay,
so this is where your work took a different turn. Tell us about this.
Yeah, this is looking back to my childhood and evaluating why I was lacking in confidence And basically what they are is a kind of a signpost for people as a warning, really. Be careful what you feed to children. Be careful of the tools you give them. Be careful of the words you use, because they will use only what you give them and what they've got to navigate their world. And if it's negative, those tools are going to be used against themselves. And so I included the emoji face looking happy and what have you to the outside world. Happy childhood, playing around, but, the symbology of a banana, something that you would consider innocent, can be used as a weapon to them. A comment that you say that, I have learned that people say things and they don't mean them. They say them out of repetition because it's been said to them. And when you're grappling, you just throw these words out, and it's not with malicious intent. Young minds take it as gospel and they repeat it to themselves. So what you need to do is the banana side one, to be or not to be, is basically you want to have a mind of comfort, but not of conflict. And then beside it, you have impending, and the idea of the child with the weight of the world coming down on top of them with that pyramid. That's the third cat that I couldn't get out of the room. The other two were safely in the utility area. Hellboy is wailing. The impending one is about the idea of being stuck between a rock and a hard place. And the owl is the old age symbol of wisdom, and that you can't put an old head on young shoulders, but that to allow them the knowledge that whatever state they're in, balancing on those little tall precipices, that it's only short-lived, and the tall precipices that they're on symbolizes everybody's conflict or challenge. And it can also be the idea that you can have the power to overcome it and be empowered to stay balanced. This one here, on the left-hand side, you've got fight or flight. Now, I was given an award, the Elizabeth Morrow Award, for work of creativity and innovative and creative work from USWA, the Ulster Society of Women Artists. I'm very proud of it. They recognise talent. And I see some of the ladies on the screen, and thank you very much for coming in. A beautiful, beautiful, welcoming group up above, talented bunch of ladies in the north. That embodies the idea of launching yourself from your childhood self into your adult life, the idea of becoming independent, using childish things to get you through that transition, like the feathers stuck in the bag that's containing all the childhood memories, and wishes and dreams, because this is part of the Wishes, Dreams and Secrets series. So using innocence and your history to navigate becoming self-empowered, self-aware, launching yourself from the nest, which is symbolized from the feathered wreath at the bottom, and the hands that are there that have helped you, encouraged you, nurtured you, sent you on your way. So you're a young flightling or fledgling or whatever. It's purely about self-empowerment and the spirit of adventure. These ones got into the RUA. They are a mixture of 2018 and 2019 bronzes. Altered State is the overall trilogy title. And I think it's kind of obvious. It's about that altered state within ourselves. On the left, you've got deleted and rewritten. The idea, Dr. Phil said it well, that you are a copybook and anybody in your environment is writing on that copybook of your life. And we self-edit, especially when you're young. You rub out to try and please others. The words, this house of words that we live in, this house of words that we feed ourselves. So that's about that. And minimized in the center would be one of my favorite bronzes, because it represents the idea of the facade you are showing to the outside world, but inside you're locked in a cycle of negativity that before counseling, actually before this year, I would have thought was the fault of other people around me and in my history. But when those pennies drop, like when you're in counseling, you're given pennies and they drop at different times. Those pennies dropped a lot for me in lockdown. And I realized that you feed yourself those words in your own head and that you are actually the reason why you're trapped. You feed yourself negativity, what you tell yourself you believe. You become what you tell yourself over and over. It's like a negative mantra, and that's called minimized, where you are self-minimizing. And the one then behind it then is morph, from when I was compulsively listening to 21 Pilots. I compulsively listened to music, the same, like 21 Pilots for about 9 months. Aldous O'Harding for a year, the same album on repeat on Spotify. I'm currently listening again to Billie Eilish, but Morph comes from Morph, the song from 21 Pilots, about the way that you become what you think you are, what you believe you are from what you tell yourself. And you shrink in your world and you take on the persona. This here is like a frightened rabbit. And that's what that is. And you've got that precipice you're standing on with tunnels for the home for the rabbits, but really it's your hiding place, and also holes to let the light through, to shine through. That these pieces have hope in them as well, because these guys are balancing on stuff that's, precarious. They are balancing. So there is a positivity to this. And also that I now know myself more. I know that I have the power within me to focus on the positive meaning of things that are said to me and not choose to inflict a negative meaning on stuff. I've never been bullied in my life, apart from, say, within the home.
It's interesting, Helen, if I may come in, and thank you for bringing us through this work. We're going to go to this lady in just a moment, but before we go to this lady, and this is the next phase and the last phase before we go to Princess Cat. I think your work is stunningly beautiful. I'm going to go back to that one for a second. So I know you shifted to bronze in recent times. This is bronze work, and you did so because you and I touched on this. It's the 100-year work. This stuff will last forever. And it's just wonderful that you're putting these messages out for people and building all this subtlety into your work. But everything has been thought through.
Colm, I am telling you, the RUA was the turning point in my life with regards to my art. I was already in treatment for breast cancer, and I had, for the first time, submitted to the RUA. Because, like up to that stage, I would have thought all of these things were out of my reach. And I remember distinctly that, the results were supposed to be coming, and Paul was flailing to shine light in a tunnel that seemed to be dark. And he actually rang the RUA to ask when were the results going to be coming out, because he was so desperate to get me good news. And I'll never forget when he rang me to tell me, all 3 pieces you submitted in have been accepted. And it was like, oh my Jesus Christ, it was validation. It was like I could have done cartwheels, only for I've never been able to do cartwheels in my life. I might do a little tumble on the ground, crooked one. But it was amazing. And I've been in the RUA for the 4 consecutive years after that. They have been so encouraging and so open about the range of art that they show. It's a show for everybody. And I decided at that stage that I needed to make my art so that it would not be throwawayable, that it was something that somebody would actively have to melt down and work hard at getting rid of. So these guys are going to be around, and somebody is going to look at them and they are going to make a connection. I'll tell you, Marie Tobin, an ex-student of mine, she's sitting in the audience. She came down with her partner to visit all the way from the Midlands, and brought her into my studio, and she immediately connected with my work. And that was, it's a profound moment for an artist to be in the presence of somebody and that you know that you have hit that spot, to know that feelings and emotions are universal. It doesn't matter the vehicle that got you to that emotion or what happened. It's the final overall emotion that you're feeling. And so we all have an interconnection.
Beautiful.
And no matter how you got there, to know that somebody else has company and that you've got a kindred spirit, you've got a tribe, people who can empathize and read in and connect on an emotional level are your tribe.
Wonderful. And your tribe has expanded here this morning. Your tribe has expanded here this morning. Marie Tobin, thank you for being a special part of the story, and the people in the RUA, of course. Going to go through this last piece, if you don't mind. Just the medium has changed. A handful of short slides here. Who's this woman? Tell us about her in the hat.
Well, now, that is the most gentle, feminine, graceful, warm, caring, lovable woman ever. The old me, prior to counselling, never appreciated that people could be like that from the heart, and that's their natural state. Because, I was like a chameleon, masquerading and changing so often. And like when lockdown happened, Paul's 5 brothers were all trying to figure out what would happen with Noreen, because Noreen is still living independently in her own home. And myself and Paul, put our hands up immediately. We'd love to have Noreen coming to stay with us. So she was with us for the first lockdown. She was a prisoner.
Are we back to serious crimes here now, are we?
Well, in all fairness now, I wouldn't be the hostess with the mostest. I would be very light-handed when it comes to cooking and hoovering. Hovering. My lockdown diary has hoovering spelled as hovering. That's how alien it was to me. And she was like a glow in the house. Paul was transformed during that time. I think, Noreen would have thought that, she was sorry that she had to be here, that we were looking after her and that she was in imposition. She was a ray of sunshine, a warm candle, a bit of magic that we circled around. And it was our days circled around Noreen. And I, my mother, ran a restaurant for years, and I was one of these reluctant helpers in the restaurant. I was the most unapproachable, surly, sulky looking person behind a fucking counter ever. But I brought out the inner cooking in me while Noreen was here, and we all gained a load of weight. I am telling you, we were rolling around by the time I was finished feeding us up.
I love it.
Lockdown for me was a period of time where I blossomed.
Fantastic. This here is part of that lockdown diary that you referred to. There are 2 more images I want to get to. So very quickly explain the mirror and the hairbrush, please.
Specifically the lockdown haircuts. Everybody was a hairdresser, whether you were or you weren't. And Noreen is very self-conscious about her appearance. She looks after herself. I realized through Noreen being there that she was putting on eye cream and face cream and all that kind of stuff. I wasn't. I hadn't worn eye cream or skin cream or taken care of myself for a long time because I felt a bit unworthy. And she woke me up to that, actually. Every time she saw you, she would say you're wonderful and praise. Do you know what I mean? And, point out the things that were wonderful that you were doing. And I was doing these lockdown diaries for her every morning, even though it wasn't called a lockdown initially. It was a welcome and how are you? I decided that I would cut her hair for her if she'd allow me. And I used my mother's brush and mirror that I had, because my mother died in 2019. Actually, a month before I did the PowerPoint presentation and artist talk for the RUA. But I used my mother's mirror and brush. And I was so highly conflicted, because I'd had a tempestuous relationship with my mother. We were very alike. I inherited everything, good and bad, and we clashed. And I think she saw the reflection of me that she probably didn't want to see of herself. And I wasn't a person of good, words. I didn't know how to use words properly. I still don't. But the lockdown made me think and reflect on the relationship that I had with my mother, and the relationship that Paul has with his mother, and to dwell on stuff from the counselling, stuff from talking to Noelle, stuff from talking to Anne Maloney Mason over in California, who has joined us. Thank you very much. I went to do my art teaching training with Anne, and she has been another ray of sunshine in my life. And between those people and Paul as well, pennies were dropping and dots were joined. And I began to accept that you might not like what somebody has done to you. It's not personal, and that you can still love those people. I don't have to be conflicted, and that I remembered all the good things. I did so much thinking during lockdown.
You really
analyzing.
did. You really did a huge amount of thinking, but it seems like you're in a very loving place. I mean, we've just met Paul's mother there, Noreen. And of course, Paul, as you say, is the wind beneath your wings, has been forever and will be forever. Bumfliff, explain Bumfliff to the audience.
Well, this is Paul's birthday on the 14th of June, and it was part of the morning diary for Noelle or Noreen. I used to do it every morning and send it up. I was in the bedroom directly under Noreen, and she'd be listening, to Ardless O'Hanlon or Ardless Harding coming up through the floorboards. But I consciously include my mother in everything I do, and to be honest, my art was done for my mother as well. Unfortunately, she died. She had a brain hemorrhage first, and went into a nursing home. And so she never witnessed any of my artwork that you've seen today, apart from the very early horses. She only witnessed all the years prior to that where I had no confidence and wouldn't put myself out there. So I do things every day to remember her. And Bumfliff, she used to always say that when we were kids. And I remember particularly when Colm, the youngest, was a baby, the little bundle of Bumfliff, so, not Bumfluff. So I put that in every morning, or anytime I text Paul, it's always Bumfliff. So I put that in there. And I had to celebrate my revolutionary hair makeup design for Noreen. Holy Jesus, I sweated buckets doing that. I thought I had chopped it right off, but it grew out well. So
did you use one of the power tools, I wonder? And this is the final image. I love this one. I love this one, right? The pair, right, out in the garden, having afternoon tea.
Well, do you know what? Moments before that happened, that was our very first outing into the garden. Moments before that happened, I was out there with the big, huge loppers, opening up the area that goes between the sheds to get to that part of the garden, because I kept meaning to cut them back for bloody years. And it took Noreen and her outing to be the inspiration to chop it all down. And the teacups that they were using were, little china teacups that I have from my mother. So she's present, and this is where she's always present in everything I do. And the two of them used to be out there when the weather was fine. They would be sitting out in the favorite part of the garden where it was sheltered. You could see the sea and the harbour just down at Duncannon. We have a wide vista. I'm telling you, we live on a beautiful spot, historically beautiful, but Jesus, landscape, seascape, absolutely wonderful place. It's inspirational, and I have a lot to thank it for. And the people that I have, like in my life, I've had about 5 people that I would hold close. I don't give my time to a lot of people because I find it hard to, just be a little and often. But I have been blessed over the last few years. Hello, Anne.
And Helen, we have been blessed by your visit to our humble little cafe today. So thank you for being here and sharing your story so beautifully. And we'll never be able to repeat this experience because nobody else is a Helen Merrigan Colfer. And the work is just stunning. Is that the cat?
Noreen hat.
Oh, it's Noreen hat, I'm sorry. I couldn't see.
Paul, it looks like something that's been knocked down on the road. I thought it was a cat many's the time.
Road
But
cat.
Paul bought that for me when I was ill to keep my head warm. And of course, like I'd be there, my head was too big. It was kind of like shoehorned onto me. So Paul started to wear it. And then when Noreen was going out for her walks, we're, subjected to the coastal gales. So she used to wear this every time when she went outside. Her little kind of furry helmet, fake fur. But yeah.
Beautiful. And of course, that's what was in that lovely image of Noreen that we saw earlier. Helen,
Yep.
I'm going to ask you two quick questions, and these are going to be really short answers. Ladies and gentlemen, I do apologize that we've gone over time. We're usually done by 12, but the conversation, I think you'd agree, has been so rich. It would have been an absolute shame to not capture this moment. So thank you for being here and for staying. We've got people in from the States, people in from the north of Ireland. Somebody from California, I believe, has just joined us, and it's early in California, so thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Okay, Helen, two quick questions, right? And then we're going to Princess Cat to find out what's the love that's been poured out in the show, in the chat. First question is, what are you taking with you from COVID that you're not letting go of?
Self-love, self-respect, self-care. Be kind to myself. Be kind to others. Don't project negativity into any situation.
Perfect. Beautiful. Yeah. Thanks. Kathy Mera leading the charge there. And the second question then is you become aware of somebody close to you who is struggling because of the pandemic, because of lockdown. What would you recommend to them what step could they take if people are struggling at the moment?
Well, you see, lockdown for me, I've always been a loner and didn't go to social situations. So I flourished. I was delighted. Good excuse. For others, embrace yourself. Pick up, like, the world of art is so vast. Music, poetry, writing, calligraphy, sculpture, drawing, weaving, knitting, whatever it is. Put your hand to it. Put yourself into it. This helped me as I was working for hours on end. Your thoughts are diluted. You're thinking about what it is that you're making. You're living in the present. And then you have something like moments where you feel that, Jesus Christ, look what I'm doing. And you feel literally that somebody else is doing what you're seeing your hands doing. And it's for those moments that you actually live for. That's the drug. In COVID, embrace yourself, embrace an activity that you feel happy doing and just lose yourself in it. Be kind to yourself. COVID has been a brilliant time for me.
Yeah, it's lovely. It's lovely. Helen Merrigan Colfer, thank you for being here on the Coffee to 11 show. It's been our pleasure. Stay where you are. Don't go anywhere. Princess Cat, what's been going on in the cafe?
Thanks, Colin. Helen, you have brought us on quite the journey there this morning, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who was leaning forward into the screen when Colin was sharing your slides. Your stuff is just absolutely fascinating. And I had the pleasure last November, Noel sent me the link to your Tribes and Tribulations exhibition up in Port Stewart. I spent a lovely hour one Sunday morning going around having a look. So it's just gorgeous. I'm a big fan. So the chat was quite busy this morning. It opened up obviously with lots of prayers and good wishes being sent out for Danny, and everybody, including myself, silently thanking Eamon, for leading the intention on that. So we're all thinking of Danny this morning, and Shelley, of course. When you went on to describe your childhood, there was a lot of response there. So you're describing the area that you live in and in Wexford, and it is idyllic. I spent summers in Wexford myself. My mum is a proud Wexford woman, so I spent many a year, and everybody just loves where you grew up. It's gorgeous, and also can respond to the sibling rivalry. Anybody who has siblings, no matter where you come in the family, I think that everyone feels hard done by. So yeah, we've all gotten the blame for something, rightly or wrongly. So let's have a little scroll down here and have a look. A few of our regulars had to pop away, Sarah and Dee, but they sent their best wishes. They will catch up in the replay. So when you went on then talking about your teachers, and Mr. O'Hare got a mention and Sister Paulina, and, you know, everyone agrees, like, it is 100-year work and teachers are so important, you know, so they obviously set you, you know, in good stead for your future endeavours and future career. And then we got into your slides. One of the first comments that jumped out at me was for Sorrel Wills. Welcome to the cafe, Sorrel, a first-time visitor. Hopefully we'll see you again. And she said it's wonderful, you know, that she can relate. And Eamon said, I can sense the cathartic release in letting go, the recovery to discovery in your work, Helen. It's beautiful work and a beautiful journey. And then Noelle went on to say, Helen, you have inspired no doubt within and beyond your classrooms, all precious cargo for your stunning work. And Veronica echoed that your work is stunning and thank you for sharing. You're amazing. Then Paul popped in, proud of you, honey bunch. And sure, that set off all of us hopeless romantics. And it came up again later when he popped in. You know, we all love a love story here in the cafe. And you two, you're pure cute. It's just gorgeous. Like, I love it. So then Patricia Keithley said, it's so profound, so elegant at the same time, so strong about being weak. Love them. And weak is in inverted commas. I'm going to send all of these comments to you later, Helen, so you'll get to read them yourself. After the show, I'll send them all to you in an email, so you'll have the pleasure of reading them as well, because I probably will miss out something. I'm doing my best to be an honorary princess and step into Shelley's very sparkly shoes. So... and then Noelle went on to say she's very proud of you, Helen, and we did first meet you on Noelle's show and we're delighted that you became part of the Coffee at 11 family. So Noelle is very proud of you, monumental masterpieces and unique. And said, so glad to hear, Helen, sharing this together. So that's your friend Anne in California. Welcome, Anne. And it must be quite early for you, I imagine, to make the effort. So we really appreciate it. Like we admire Kathy for coming in every week so early. So Anne, wow, thank you. And then Eamon popped in your links, Helen, as well, so everyone can check out your work. And if they haven't done so already, they really should make it their business to explore further what Helen has done. And then Sorrel came back in to say, I believe discovery and recovery coincide. Wonderful insights to appreciate your fabulous work even more deeply. And Eamon agreed, recovery leads to discovery. And Noelle came back with a match made in heaven, Helen and Paul, and then there was more on your lovely love story and everyone just swooning over the two of you. Mary Blake popped in to say, Helen, it was so amazing to meet yourself and Paul in Enniskillen and so beautiful to hear of the support received from my beautiful soul sister, Noelle. Looking forward to chatting more about some of your amazing pieces. You are truly inspirational. And then Donnac loved that you met at midnight mass. What a place to connect with the magic. And then some more on your romantic love story. Again, you'll get to read all of those comments. And Eamon rightly said it's the magic of the cafe, James. Because James just, I'm surprised. Well, actually, I shouldn't be surprised that the men are as swoony as the women over this. So Noelle said, Paul, you have been such a champion and what a guardian and a partner. What a team. And it's just gorgeous. So let me scroll on down and have another look. So when you were starting talking about the youth, then it's like Eamon went on to say, we should plant good impressions in our kids. We have the world on loan from them. And Sorrel came back in to say, your psychological understanding is immense. So this was when we were looking at your bronze pieces, I think. Then Kathy thanks you for honesty and sharing your journey with us today. Brian O'Callaghan then, who's next week's guest with his son Podrick, he came in to say, truly amazing to get an insight into the mind of a successful artist. Story told with such honesty, reflected in the obvious hard work you put into your pieces. Thank you, Helen. So much just admiration for you, which is no surprise. It's just pouring out here. So it's lovely to get to read it. Veronica said, listening to Helen and experiencing her work would be so inspirational for young people especially, and that was echoed in a few more comments. Noelle went on to say, so many children and adults can identify with these emotions. Your work has provided such a salve in supporting and expressing, sometimes when words are not enough. And James then honoured Noelle, saying also people like you, Noelle, who support, encourage and promote artists and their works to a wider audience. Because we do, you said it yourself, you wouldn't have always been great for pushing yourself forward, and we do need people like Noelle to give us that boost. Then Noelle responded with, your work resonates with so many across cultures, borders, religions. And Veronica said, when you were describing Noreen, Veronica said, you are like Noreen, a ray of sunshine and a breath of fresh air. And she's right. Noelle then came back in to say, your talents and skills are part of your mother's living legacy. And Noelle must be afraid of cats, because, so I do apologise. A cat regularly appears on my window, so sorry, Noelle. But yeah, we could hear one of your cats in the background, and hopefully they. Which cat was it?
Hellboy.
Oh, an appropriate name.
Yeah, perfect name. He's usually the quietest one. He's the geriatric of the bunch, and he wouldn't go down into the utility. All I had to do was turn on the Hoover.
Oh, really?
And Storm were out there like a light, because it's like yesterday I actually did Hoover before I set up my little environment here, and it killed me and it nearly killed the cats. But I knew myself what my modus operandi was going to be today in order to.
Yes. But he knew something was happening, so he wanted to be part of the crack.
It happens so seldom that the Hoover is plugged in that, it still terrorized them. The minute Noreen stopped, when she went back to her own house after the first lockdown, when they had all the others,
yes,
the brothers had all got together to have help and all that for her, I stopped hoovering. It's only a periodic miracle.
Housework is overrated anyway, I think. So then there was some more... There were some more lovely comments then. So Kim Sharkey, another first-time visitor, I think. A treasure to hear you, Helen, talking of your amazing work and influences. And Noelle popped back in to say, express it, don't depress it. Put your heart and soul into it, into the arts, and your own creativity is a salve and a saviour. And Donna came in to say, embrace what makes your heart sing. So Eamon shared your links again in case anyone missed them. And I think I have reached the end of the comments. Is anybody there with a question ready for, if you want to give me a wave? Tim, did I see your hand coming up there?
Thanks, Kat. You're doing a wonderful job deputising today. Fair play to you. Well, a round of applause for Kat, everybody. Well done. Yeah, I'm always going to jump in with a question. If none of you throw your hands up, I'm that SWAT at the front of the class answering every question, But I have a question for you, Helen, about being an artist in modern times with technology and social media and Facebook Marketplace, and it's a bit more accessible for people to create art and get it out to an audience than maybe it was a number of years ago. I was wondering if you had any comments about like, for instance, my partner Deb has started putting little bits and pieces up. She was always making things around the house, but friends of hers said, look, you have to put this stuff online, and she's had a few people coming on and buying them, and so now she's a paid artist all of a sudden. I was wondering if you had any comments around how technology has changed the accessibility of becoming an artist for people.
Well, I was dragged into the technological trauma of it all by Noelle, dragging and screaming into it. She included me in a few Zoom calls, and we actually had an interview with Mary Louise Murr, I think it was. Was it Mary Louise Murr?
Yeah.
Myself, Rosie McGurn and Noelle chatting about artists in lockdown. We also connected with Objet Trouvé over in Oklahoma, talking about our work as well with those. It was great. And then Colin O'Brien, of course. So I was all, well oiled up for this. SWA, SWA, the Society of Women Artists, north of Ireland and England, I wouldn't have had a hope in hell of ever submitting work to them without technology and the lockdown, because to my mind, sculpture, hassle to create it up, the cost of it to deliver it, and then who unpacks it, who collects it, who retrieves it. And that's even before you're accepted in a submission. So this year I actually submitted to the Society of Women Artists, and I actually got an award. So that wouldn't have happened without technology during lockdown. Yeah, I have set up Instagram, and I actually have something like, I don't know, 400 followers or something. I don't keep count of those kind of things. Not half, I think it's 405. and what's worse, you look at it and it's 405 today and it could be 395 tomorrow. That kind of way. People suddenly decide to actually unfollow you, and it affects me deeply. You wonder, what have I done? But no, and lockdown has made people realize mental health matters. Isolation and loneliness, it makes people think more about what they see. And my art has actually finally been really well received by people. They're reading into it. So that's been an amazing achievement, and it's all because of technology. Online exhibitions, not having to physically deliver your work helps. And I've found that people are actually interacting and leaving comments an awful lot more now than they ever did. So much and all as I am a troglodyte and terrified of technology and breaking the internet, it has been a lifeline for an awful lot of people. And I have met some true tribe members on here. I'm seeing Veronica Buchanan out there as well. I'm telling you, I have hit Kate Plum is another one too. There are people, mini me's or replicas of me's that you don't realize, because without the technology, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And I have more friends now than I ever had before. And I mean friends that I know that have shared and I have shared with, and you can see them in their work and you see where they're coming from. So technology is amazing, and thank you to the internet, and thank you, Noelle, for dragging me. If you read through my diary, you would see some passages in there. Some mornings I'd be whinging, whining and bitching to poor Noreen up there about my technological nightmares. And if there was a Zoom call, it would be like, oh, Jesus Christ, I wouldn't be sleeping for nights beforehand. And you know yourself, like you'd look like a dragged through a hedge backwards, and then you'd sit there and can't get words out. And you're like this.
Helen, do you still keep the diary?
I do in my hole.
Good. That's done.
Look, is my diary. I am the most, as you now know, the most long-winded person ever. Saying it in 2 words when I can use 22 or 200 words. So to do it visually is my diary. Forget the writing, Jesus Christ.
Perfect. Tim, thank you for the question. So thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for the comments and not making it too difficult to me today. No big hard words. I'm going to pass you back over now to boss Colm O'Brien. Thanks, Colm.
Thanks, Kat. I see Princess Shelley giving you the heart emoji there for very fine deputising of the princess slot on the show today. Thank you for that, Kat. Shelley, great to see you still here. That's a good sign for all of us. And Helen, that was just a truly beautiful conversation, and those comments coming in, as Kat said, we'll email those to you later on, so you'll have them there for you to go through. There are 3 people that I'd like to just invite in for comment. And I see Noelle McAlinden. Noelle, you're top of the list. Pop in and...
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Perfectly well. Well.
I am so proud of you, Helen and Paul and Colm. Thank you so much, because I know this has been a huge opportunity for all of us that have been on the show, but also I know for Helen this has been a big deal. And when you see the stunning work, the work speaks for itself. I mean, Helen, you translate into your work what is unspeakable, and I just think it's just absolutely beautiful, monumental, and really precious. And just the point as well that Tim mentioned too about technology. I mean, we wouldn't have met each other without technology. We wouldn't have connected. And Helen has had 2 exhibitions during lockdown, in lockdown, one in Flowerfield Arts Centre, which opened and closed within a week. And yet, thanks to the support of Desmond Conley in Flowerfield and Paul Marshall's skills, we've had both in the Royal Ulster Academy, Helen's work, and also up in Flowerfield. So that has really connected us and linked us, and we're all learning. But honestly, Helen, your work is, I've said this before, it was worth the journey. I went down, the first time I saw it, I broke down when I saw your work. I was part of the selection committee for the Royal Ulster Academy because it really, really moved me. And I also feel very strongly that your work is probably one of the most skilled artists that I've ever seen in terms of attention to detail and in terms of what you are creating and what you're manifesting. And I suppose this is my plug to all artists and supporting artists. Invest in artists and invest in yourself, because it's a friend for life, you know, and we all interpret things differently, you know, and I know as an artist myself, there are certain things that I keep private and hidden, but I think we are lucky to be in the company of people who can bring joy, and it's just fantastic. So thank you so much, Helen. Thank you to Colin, and thank you to Paul. Delighted you didn't bring the cats in.
Come here, Noelle McAlinden, don't go in here for a minute, right? Because you are the lady who's responsible for introducing us to Helen, and therefore for this morning, so thank you for that. But I also want it made known, you're talking about artists hiding stuff, right? Am I right in thinking that simultaneously with the Coffee at 11 show today, you were granted an award, and yet you chose to be here too? Tell us about that, please.
Oh God, I'll break down. Jesus. I've been nominated for, well, I was nominated, and then the award ceremony was at 11 o'clock today for Sir Ken Robinson Award, Unlocking Creativity.
Now, can you say that without breaking down? What was the award?
God, yeah, say it in English there, Noelle, quickly.
Okay, so I was nominated as a recipient of the first Unlocking Creativity Sir Ken Robinson Award. He died last August. We've had his festival on all week, and there was a ceremony today at 11 o'clock to make the announcements. So I am one of 11 people. Mary Blake will know this as well. I'm one of 11 people who've been nominated, and I got an individual award for my services to creativity, which I've continued. And I met Ken Robinson 21 years ago at a time that I was very, very vulnerable, you know, in terms of challenges. And I shared that on your interview column with me. And I painted this exhibition, this painting behind me called Out of the Blue exhibition. And at that time when I had met Sir Ken, we were working together with a group of people across Northern Ireland on the Unlocking Creativity agenda, unlocking the creative potential of children and young people, adults, educators, tourism, economy, all of that. And then I had the opportunity to work with them again as part of the London Dairy City of Culture. So I have sustained myself during lockdown, and probably for the last 25 years at least, I'd say 30, on his teaching and his attitude of, you know, find your passion, unlock your potential, support others to do the same, and creativity matters, whether it's within the arts or beyond it, you know, and when we are in our element, we are at our best, you know, and I think, Helen, you are in your element, and I think this show represents that. Helen, you brought me to tears again.
I know, I come here, it's my thing. What can I say? Noelle, come here, ladies and gentlemen.
Congratulations, Noelle.
Unbelievable. Not only that, huge moment in her life, but out of respect for you, Helen, she chose to be here. She chose to actually come to the Coffee at 11 show.
How did she concentrate on anything? I mean, if I was being awarded something, I think I would have been out, you know, like celebrating.
Apparently the secret is 2 screens, apparently, but Noelle, wonderful, thanks for that. Listen, if you don't mind, and I know people need to go. If you need to go, we'll understand entirely. But it's just a beautifully rich show. I'm going to throw a few people under the bus. Marie Tobin. Unmute and come in and say hello.
Really thrown under the bus. I was not expecting that.
It's a skill I have. What can I say?
How's things?
Only good things now.
Yeah, come on. So what does this woman mean?
I only have memory.
What has this woman meant to you?
Well, I mean, during a time that, you know, in secondary school where I was completely lost in myself. I was going through a lot of stuff, you know, that a majority, you know, quite a few people have gone through, I'm sure. But Helen was a respite for me. She became, unknowingly, she became a very close friend. I know she would always stand back and she would say, "We're not friends, Marie. I'm your teacher." But in my heart, she was my friend, and she was a massive rescue for me during an extremely difficult time in secondary school. She gave me outlets and care and compassion that I was very void of during that time in my life. And again, like Helen, I've done my work and I've done my counselling, and I've come to believe in myself, and I've come to grow from that person that I was in school. But only for Helen, and only for the safety I felt in her time and in her space was something that I looked forward to, and something that I cherished from school. She believed in me when I felt extremely lost in my own home, in my own family surroundings, and also in my peer group. I felt like I never fit in.
Wow. Truly beautiful. Marie, I do apologise for throwing you under the bus. I hope you forgive me in time, but I just wanted to get that on the record for Helen, so thank you for that, Marie. We've got Anne in California. We can't have somebody zoom in from California and not say hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Well, that was lovely, Helen. I'm so proud of you. You did a great job. And Helen and I often have nightly conversations because I'm a bit of a night owl. It's always good fun to WhatsApp with Helen in the middle of the night and catch up with what's going on. She's the best of fun. And we were in college together, so we had good times then as well. So it's great to be here. Thank you.
Lovely. Well, thank you.
I love your show. I've been watching it on YouTube.
Ah, very kind. Thank you.
I go back and I watch the other ones.
So you're the other person.
You're a lovely group. Yeah, I'm that person.
We're very blessed.
Group of people.
We're very blessed. We found each other over the last year, and it's just been a joy for all of us. So thank you, Anne, for being here and for popping in. And I'll go to Veronica, if you don't mind. Last person thrown under a bus. Just thank you for being here, but tell this lady what she means to you.
Do you know, believe it or not, I haven't even met Helen. I only am a virtual friend, but I just feel a strong connection with her. She's been so bubbly, lovely, so supportive, and I'm not surprised at the beautiful tribulations to her here today. And I feel she's a great inspiration. And I did make the comment, I was teaching myself, and I did make the comment on the chat that if young people were to listen to even a recording of today's show, it would be just fabulous, because I think she speaks what children can't speak. And I think she's just amazing.
Wonderful. Veronica, thank you for that. And again, as I said to the others, please forgive me for bringing you in. But I think in moments like this, you can't just miss those moments, those opportunities. So
yeah, thank you very much.
Pleasure. Folks, we better call this a day, right? Now, we'll keep the cafe open for another little while if people want to hang around and have a chat. But let me just finish by thanking the team for being here today. We have to thank Princess Shelley, who has produced today's show by empowering her deputy, Princess Cat, to take over the royal duties. Princess Cat, big heart emoji there for you for stepping in and filling very sparkly shoes. I loved that. Eamon Smith for grounding us so beautifully and sending out all that love to Danny today. That was just gorgeous. There you go. Yeah, fist pump. Where's himself gone? Young Kelly. He's there somewhere. Yeah, there he goes. Tim, thanks for everything, including your awful jokes, which are getting awfuler by the week, which is just, I think we've all got some pride in that. But thank you all for being here and for sharing in today's Coffee at 11 show, episode 99. Before I let you go. I need to talk to you about episode 100, and I'm going to come back to you in just a second, Helen. We close out the show. But before I do that, allow me just share my screen one more time. And I want you just to look at this, because this is next week's guest. His dad is in the cafe as we speak. This is Padraig, and this is the Monday Motivation Podcast.
Hi guys, welcome to the Monday Motivation Podcast. Today, let's talk about support networks. My papa in Scotland takes me to Celtic games. This year has been disappointing on and off the field, as now this great manager has moved on. But will I turn my back on them like others have this year? No chance. When times are tough, as they are just now, your team needs your support more than ever, whether that's your team of staff, your family, or your sports team. I will continue to support my team, and I will encourage you to try and do the same with whatever team needs your support. Cheers.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, yes, indeed, yes, indeed. What can you, seriously. Brian, where's Brian? Brian, we're looking forward to meeting you and Padraig next week. Let's be honest, we're only bringing you in because we want to get Padraig on the show.
And don't I know that, Colin? Don't I know it? Very much looking forward to it.
I jest, Brian, but come here, we're so looking forward to that. And when the opportunity came to have young Padraig on the show, because he's been doing that Monday Motivation Podcast. In fact, you were both on the RTE News recently when we heard that you were available to come on the show at great expense. We thought the last show of series 3, which is next Friday, and it's also episode 100. So it's just super to have you come here. So thank you for that. Looking forward to it.
An absolute honour, Colin. We're honoured to fill that 100th slot.
And ladies and gentlemen, you know where you need to be next Friday for sure. But look, let's just finish the show off by saying, Helen Colfer, it's been an absolute pleasure and joy having you here on the Coffee at 11 show and sharing your stunningly beautiful work that will last for 100 years and more. Namaste.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You caught me at the right time.